We're live. Craig.
We are live. How are we?
Cheers for joining, mate, and thanks for asking that question backstage. Am I allowed to swear? I'm like, yeah, say what you want, mate. If you get cancelled, it's on you.
Like, there's not going to be anything too crude, but like, I think they always say swearing's like the lowest form of wit, but I think with swearing, I think it's like a bit of your passionate side comes out because you're free flowing. You literally say what you want to say, and if things have upset you, then you probably deserve a swear word in that sense, and it's just the way it is.
There's things, mate, like I just consider them part of my vocabulary now. Like I don't like. I think there's a difference between swearing and swearing at someone, isn't there? And
Yeah.
I think that's the line. And then there's certain swear words that are like still a bit.
Yeah, we'll deviate away from them.
Yeah, we'll keep them C-bombs away for another day, mate. But the first thing I have to ask you, so every guest we ask them to leave a question for the next guest. So Harry Keane left a question. He didn't know it were going to be for. And his question was, would you rather have fingers for teeth or teeth for fingers? So just to start you off with some fucking crazy
Wow,
shit.
what a question. What a question. Do you know what? I'd probably say fingers for teeth. It makes you think about it, doesn't it? Like weirdly, like fingers for teeth and like teeth. Oh, God. No, that is one of the randomest questions I've ever been asked. Fingers for teeth. And I don't really have an answer to why. It just seems the more plausible choice, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm thinking more like if you had teeth for fingers, you could chew your food in your hands and then just chuck it in and eat it, so you might be able to eat faster.
If you would have prepped me for this, I would have had a great answer, and I would have given you the reason why and everything. I probably would have started like Googling things to be like, what is the best way to describe this without just going, I have no idea really.
Well, have half an eye on the end of the show, because I'm going to ask you to leave a question for our next guest, and it can be absolutely anything you want, mate.
Will do.
So we've got some interesting stuff to talk about. So one of the things that made me want to do this with you was I saw your video a while back on Instagram about you like working really hard to get into the police, and then that obviously not panning out how you wanted it to. We'll come on to that in a little bit, but I want to like get a bit of history. Obviously you've got a very big passion for fitness, and I just wanted to sort of go back in time to when you thought that sort of was born, mate. What got you into fitness?
To be honest with you, fat kid. Not gonna lie. Got bullied at school. Names along the lines of Pie Man, Whale, and you know what? I wasn't even that fat of a kid. I was just like a big boned, chubby person. My mum and dad.
You don't have to be that fat at school, do you? To be fat, like no. I remember, like everyone was fat. Like you called everyone.
Not at all. I was by far like I'd say like in the top maybe 20 fat people, but like maybe number 19, and there was like number 1 who was like a really big guy, and I just wasn't that guy. And my mum and dad never really because they're not sporting at all, and they never really interjected me into any sports. They just let me do whatever I wanted, and at that time it was kind of like just do everything. You know, that kid at school, like I played football, left back, did that for years for Raynham United, where I was from. And then, do you know what? I would have been a fucking good rugby player, and I know I would have been, but I wasn't committed to it because there was so many other things to do. It was go play football, basketball, tennis, like eat rounders for a point in my life and things like that. And then I suppose when I hit 16, it was like, do you know what? I probably should move into the world of fitness. But then again, you're going back in the day where it was like, if you touch weights before you're 16, you're going to stunt your growth, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, which is obviously now a load of absolute bollocks. When like kids in America from the age of like 4 get trained to be absolute animals. So at 16, found the gym, fell in love with the gym pretty much. I did my A-levels, but I pretty much just did not care. I knew I wasn't going to uni. I knew I wanted to go into sports. Did 2 years, level 2 fitness instructor. First ever job was at JJB Sports. Now that's going to show how old I am.
I remember it, mate. I'm with you.
That was so many years ago. Did that for 2 years. And do you know what? At the time, it was Dave Whelan took over JJB, and we ended up as DW. and he made the decision then to make every fitness instructor employed on the gym floor to be a PT. And I think at that time I was 18 years old. The fitness game wasn't massive, and I was like, I don't really want to be a PT just yet. So I like slipped out of the fitness industry, keep training and everything. Back then I was just a really big boy. I turned into like the bodybuilding side of things.
I was
Like,
going to say, what sort of training were you doing? Was it all sort of
oh yeah,
powerlifting?
just all bodybuilding, you know, splitting your body, chest, back, legs maybe twice a week, working on weak body parts. Idols like Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman. Just wanted to be that guy. Wanted to be Mr. Olympia for a bit. Thinking to myself, yeah, I can do this. It's not that hard. When it's like literally the hardest thing in the world, especially if you're not genetically gifted. But like carried on training, but went into mental health then. I worked in high secure mental health for about, I don't know, six, 7 years, and that was.
What does that mean, mate? High secure mental health.
So your high secure mental health. Imagine individuals who've gone through like the worst of the worst, and I'm going to say some horrible things, but it's life in a way. Like they've either been abused, raped, and then just had psychological breakdowns, or they are people who've been just like killers. They've killed someone, they've had a mental breakdown, and then they've come to you at like the highest possible level where they are not able to go into society in any way, shape, and form. They're a consistent risk to themselves. Some of them just want to kill themselves for 24 hours a day, and you're effectively the carer, the protector. You're in like a ward-based scenario, so you'd be on a ward with, say, 12 other individuals who are suffering from similar things, personality disorders, schizophrenia, all the top end wild mental health stuff, and then you've got to obviously just keep them safe within themselves, and did that for 6 years. And again, do you know what? I'd probably have gone down that route, but it was the whole university thing. I got into university. I was scheduled to go to Chester Uni to do a mental health nursing. Just never went. Never wanted the 3 years at uni, the massive debt, the whole coursework after coursework, and with that you go to uni, you go on placements, and then you've got to work on the side. And at that point, you know what I mean, you've got a bit older where you've got like bills to pay and things like that, and like you couldn't just could never really think of it as like although it's going to be 3 years of hell, like the end goal, if that makes sense, and going down that route. So I ended up working there for 6 years, completely just fobbing it off, and weirdly went straight back into DW, but into a managerial role. So started off as a duty manager in DW, and then over the next God knows how many years, just worked my way up in gym management, assistant manager at Pure Gym, general manager at the gym group, and then just been general managers, club managers at various places, Nuffield, Everlast, places like that. And that's been my, I suppose, journey throughout the majority of my life up to like, I suppose, where I am right now. I've obviously stepped into the retail space, and obviously me and Steph have opened our own gym and things like that. But that's kind of like how I suppose, transitioned in a way through job roles. I mean, with the gym world, I suppose the best way I could describe it from a corporate base, I completed it in that sense. So when I got to be a general manager of the gym group, I opened the biggest gym that they'd ever opened. I think we opened with like 6,500 members, took it up to 10,000 members in the first like 9 months. But that was in a perfect location. It was in Manchester and Fallowfield, smack bang in between 2 university campuses, massive population, and it was always destined to be the biggest. And then I suppose after that, I was like, well, sort of completed it really, and then just kind of went into gyms that were like closest to home, because it was a very big travel basis going to Manchester every day. I mean, from where you live in Wales, so it's one of them really where you just kind of like that box is ticked and then you move on.
Yeah, so I want to scoot back a bit there, because some of that stuff's quite interesting. So like obviously the secure mental health role is a very sort of structured, caring like job that you've got to do, and you've got to like care about people in order to do it.
Oh, gotcha.
And obviously because you put yourself at risk. But then all your roles after that, you seem to gravitate to management and leadership, and I think there's some correlation between that and the mental health role. Have you always had that sort of? Because I met you probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and you've got that sort of personality where you're like people warm to you and you get along with people. Do you think that's why you've sort of always gravitated to sort of managerial roles eventually, because you've just got that ability to sort of cultivate a community around you?
Yeah, and I think it's more of like you just in any role that I've ever been in, it's kind of like you wanna help people, and that's the main thing. Like it's just I suppose it's a desire, and that's what led me into wanting to be in the police and things like that, because you just want to help, you want to lead, you want to kind of guide people in a way and show them, I suppose, not necessarily the correct way or anything like that, but just I suppose the right way, because people these days make a lot of poor choices in it, especially when I was in mental health. Like you're around people daily who are making the wrong choices daily, and you're trying to obviously benefit them in a certain way to push them in the right direction to recovery. And I suppose it end up being the same in the fitness world. Like when I was a gym manager, you're sort of managing a membership base, so you're managing all members that are in there. You're trying to make their experience the best. Then you've got your PT team, your fitness coaches, whoever they may be. You're trying to push them to make them successful. So you're always trying to develop someone in whatever way that you can. And like we went down the road of CrossFit, and it's probably, in hindsight, one of the most developmental things you can do with a person, because you're about to set someone on a journey of probably the hardest thing that they're ever going to do, and you've got to develop them and obviously take them through it. And it just became a bit of a passion to show people the way and to show people how beneficial life can be.
And so where do you think that comes from? Because that's a very, I think we take it for granted in our community that the world is like that, because in the CrossFit space, people are like that. People want to help you. People want to do stuff for you. Since I made a joke on one of the last podcasts, since I've moved house 4 times. The time I had everybody I needed when I was in a CrossFit gym. Before that, no fucker wanted to help me. And then you've got people you don't even know wanting to come and carry boxes. But where do you think that sort of comes from for you? Because you obviously displayed those characteristics long before you found CrossFit. And, talking about like you did at the start, saying at school you had a bit of a rough time. Do you think like anything stemmed from that? Like, did you feel like maybe alone in that time that made you then want to help others? Because it can go either way, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got a choice when you're younger. You either like take on the world, or you let the world consume you, or you try and change the world for the better in whatever way you can. I mean, my mum and dad, they kind of really didn't push me in any way, shape and form. To be honest with you, I was a bit of a rebellious person towards, I suppose, that age, because when you get to like your 16s, your 18s, and your parents are very much like, you should do this, which for them, they both was in the the mechanical industry and things like that. So they was very much like, you need a trade. You need to go down that route. You need to work for yourself. That's where the big money is, plumber, plasterer, whatever it may be. And I was kind of like, no, absolutely not. And I just rebelled in that sense. So it was kind of like what you can do, like working for yourself. I was kind of like, right, well, I'm just going to sort of work for everyone else and give back in that way. And because of just my personality, and I tended to be because I've dealt with a lot of shit in school, I tended to be good at putting up with shit and just not so much abuse off people, but just dealing with things. And that was why mental health was very well suited, because I could effectively deal with anyone giving me the worst amount of things, like attacking you, thinking you was the devil, etc., from their own psychosis and stuff, and then just walking in the next day and being like, how you doing? You okay? And then just having that switch where like literally there's no sort of judgment, because you understood what they were going through. And then that kind of just transferred into everyone's life in like fitness, where you're going to come through that door and you might have had the best day of your life, you might have had the shittest day, and it's predominantly the shittest day that you've had, and you're walking through the door at like 5:30 at night, whenever it may be, and like you need to see someone. And I didn't need to be that person that was like, this is shit, isn't it? the world's crap, etc. I need to be that person that was going to basically make your next hour or whatever it may be, like your best hour, and to be like, you know what, you're going to be productive, you're going to hit PRs, you're going to do this, you're going to walk out of here, endorphins flowing, it's going to be fantastic when you're going to go home, you're going to sit there and be like, do you know what, I achieved something tonight. And I suppose you get sort of addicted to making people feel that way. And that's why, like, with like CrossFit, that was kind of like, again, that's like the peak and the end of everything, where it's like the most you can give because you have that community. But it's just a case of like, I think you grow. My parents brought me up the right way, and I believe, like, if I don't know, the world's changed, isn't it? Like, people don't get brought up the way that we used to, and it's just a bit different now. There's not much respect in that, and there's not much consideration for others. And I think that's where we're going to get lost as we move forward in life, where like consideration will kind of just keep going down and down and down, and then people get more and more detached, and it is what it is. But I don't think I'll ever change. I'll always be this way, no matter what life throws at me. And it throws some shit at times, I'll give you that.
Yeah, it sounds like it, mate. And you know, like, something you said there about that, like, people just have less respect. And I think, like, I was in the last sort of, I don't know, period at school where even our people in my year were starting to realise that, you know, teachers didn't really have any power. You could be a dickhead, you could get away with it, no one could do anything. There weren't that fear, and I don't want to say fear in a nasty way, but it was good. It was respect as much as fear, wasn't it? And I feel like now I don't envy teachers at all. Like, they've got to stay to a strict curriculum that they probably don't believe in. The kids don't want to learn. The parents don't give a shit, and it's like it must be really tough. That,
like, for them, we have a lot of teachers in the box, and there's a lot of teachers that I've come across in the past, and like they are now powerless, really, because there is no. I mean, look, if we went back in the day and I did something in school, Christ, I did not want to go home that day, because I'd be my ass would be handed to me. I would never be beaten or anything like that, but Christ, like, I would get told off. You wouldn't get this, you wouldn't get that, and you'd be like, fuck, never doing that again. And like, you learn through consequence, and I think that's like people of our age where we know, and like you throw back now to like an 18-year-old, and some of them are all right, but the majority of them have just not had that, where there's a sense of entitlement where they just should be given everything, and that's not the way. The world's going to fucking hit you hard at some point, and you're going to have to either like rise up to the challenge, or you're just going to fold. And I think these days the majority of people are not taught not how to fold, and you just got to keep going and going and going. And it's a little bit sad. I mean, my dad said to me when I was younger, and I don't hate him for saying it at all. He was like, I never wanted kids, because I could see the way the world was going, and if he could see it all the way, I mean, he loves me indefinitely, and I'm the best thing since sliced bread. But at that time, he was like, you could see the way the world is going, and like now I sit here and I don't have kids myself, but I can literally, you can see what he thought back then and where we are right now. Like, it's crazy, absolutely crazy, the difference. You could do whatever you want at any given point without any consequence, and it's just like, oh well, that's life.
and it's even the police as well, isn't it? You see the way people talk to police and disrespect police, and it's like, it's even to that level, and they're, you know, God, they're the ones that are supposed to protect us, and you don't even have respect for them, and it's like, so we'll come on to the police in a second, because we've obviously got stuff to talk about with them. But just before, because obviously we've touched on the fact you and Steph opened CrossFit Alpha Wolf about 2.5 years ago. I came down to the open day. We were buzzing. You all worked out all day. It was awesome, wasn't it? But where did you find CrossFit? When did you stumble across that in your fitness life?
Do you know what? Like, obviously, I was bodybuilding for years, and then it got to a point where, I don't know, I just fell out of love with it a little bit, realised I couldn't be what I wanted to be, and then I suppose I just went a bit competitive. So I started playing American football. I played American football for the Chester Romans for about 3-4 years. Loved it.
What position?
Linebacker. So I just used to smash the shit out of people. And do you know what? Oh God, if I could play American football now, God, it would help so much. But like I did that for 3-4 years, and that brought out the competitive side of me, like, massively, because I wanted to be the best. And, you know, I won like player of the year and things like that, became a captain. And like, it was very much like, yes, this is what I need. And then it came to the point where I just started to get a little bit too injured, too many knocks. And I think the main thing is with American football, if you're going into a tackle, you have to be 100% going into that tackle. And if you're going in at 95% or whatever it may be, you're going to get hurt. And then at some points, like about 3.5 years in, it kind of changed where I didn't have that like fire where like I'm going to kill you if you've got that ball. You're just getting it. I kind of had that like 95%. Hang on a minute. What if I come out on the back end of this where I'm going to get a bit hurt and stuff? Like it kind of like made me realize if I'm not 100% and I can't deliver 100%, then it's not for me anymore. Yeah. But the competitive side of that threw me into CrossFit because it was like, what is the most competitive, high intense thing that you can do without getting hurt? And it's like CrossFit. And then, you know, I can remember the dates. I think it was it February 4th, 2019 or 2020. It was that was the first day I stepped into CrossFit Chester. And I was, but again, you're coming from bodybuilding, aren't you? So when you go into CrossFit Chester and things like that, you're going into CrossFit where everyone's like, your previous preconceptions are, what the fuck are they doing? Oh, that's not a pull-up, you absolute tit. This is pathetic. That's not correct form. You're all a bunch of dickheads. And that's kind of how you envision CrossFit. And unless you know like the methodology and you understand the rhyme and reason behind there is what we do, how we do, then you just think that every CrossFit is an absolute ball bag. And that's, I'm sorry, but that's just how you look at it. Until you know, and until you come through them doors and experience and go, hang on a minute, this is why we do this, and you progress through this, and this. And until you understand that, then you'll always have that skeptical sort of like, they're the most stupid people on earth. But the competitiveness of CrossFit, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I am home. Are you telling me that I can try and kill myself whilst going against other people, and there's a competition side of things, and I can just be in this community? And I suppose I'd never experienced that community before, because as a bodybuilder, headphones in, want to get as big as possible, leave me alone, do not speak to me mid superset on my legs because I want to rip your face off. And that was kind of it. World off, I'm doing this. CrossFit, completely different. No headphones, nothing, full community basis. Everyone's doing the same thing, sharing experience with people. And I was like, do you know what? This is where I should have been, like from the very beginning. I mean, if I would have found CrossFit when I was 18, Jesus Christ, like God knows, I'd have gone to the games. Like fully believe that. If I had a good streak and I didn't get injured and I could apply myself properly, 100%, because certain people have that horrible fire in them, and at that point, like I had that like horrible fire of competitiveness where like I'm going to burn the world and I'm going to be the best at this, and then I give it a good go, and then injuries crept in, and then they forever slowed me down, unfortunately.
Did you have like certain injuries that just kept cropping up that were like previous to CrossFit anyway, from just getting battered in American football and other stuff?
Yes, and without knowing, I suppose my main injury, which is still the injury that I have now, is in my last year of American football, I took a really bad hit from a running back, and it was this shoulder, and it got me good, proper, hit my arm well back, and I was like, can't move my arm, like you need to go to A&E and everything. Went to A&E, etc. And they did the scans and everything. They were like, oh, you've hurt your rotator cuff, like, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, fair enough, like, and then you just basically don't move your arm for a while. And later now, obviously, I found out that that day when I got hit in the shoulder, I actually like cracked my shoulder socket. So where the ball of my sort of joint is at the top, got a crack in it, and then basically an extra bone is now grown out of the crack, if that makes sense. So there's an extra bone, so it stops the rotation. So the best way I can describe it, if you ask me to like raise my arm like that, I'm all good. That is locked now because the bone is digging into my rib cage, so the socket won't rotate, so I can't lift my arm high. So
does that hurt? Does that hurt, or you just can't do it?
That is like an impingement, so I can feel it pulling now inside. And if I try and I'm trying to pull my arm up now, that will not flip and go up. And that was kind of where that's got worse over years. So I was okay going overhead to a certain point, but as the years have progressed, as I loosened up through CrossFit, basically the bone grew bigger. So it means that like now the bone's grown that far where it rotates. So that's kind of why like I had to stop CrossFit in a way, because it impedes so many movements. So like overhead squats just can't get it to where it needs to be. Overhead, I can put weight over my head, don't get me wrong, but it will just top out at a certain way, because like that arm will go straight up, that one's like off to the side, and then you kind of have to twist and things. So it just ended up becoming a massive impingement. Ring muscle ups, things like that. You're just in consistent pain. So that was that. And because it needs surgery and it needs someone to go in there, whip the bone out, etc., and then go through the full recovery process over a year, I've just kind of not got to that stage yet. And don't know. I think. Do you know what? I mean, I've said this, and this is why I've transitioned mainly into like high rocks at the moment, and it's because I don't need my arm in a way. I'm not going overhead. I'm not doing anything spectacular in that sense. And I think one day I will. I'm just a weird skeptic over like surgeries and stuff like that. And me being me, like I power through like pain and stuff, which I shouldn't. So I know how I am, and I know that whatever. Say if you went in there now, you fixed it. I'd be like, in a couple of days, I'll be like, right, we're going then. what we doing? But really, it needs like a full, like 6-12 months to fully recover, etc., or your rehab and stuff. And I'm a bastard when it comes to like rehab and things. I do it for like a week, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm all right now. I'll do this, and then I'm not. I suppose being a skeptic. A big sort of like cloud over it, but like with physios and things like that, I'm a full believer that your body will heal itself, just given the longevity of time if you don't piss it off. But with something like that requires full attention and full everything else. So I think eventually I will, but then at the same time, we're getting on a bit now. Like we're 38 in just over a month, so it's like I should really be saying I'm going to have it done, and then I'm going to make a fabulous return to CrossFit and go from there.
Yeah. Right. So we're at Alpha Wolf. Just before we go onto the police, mate, where did you get the name from?
Do you know what? I can't even tell you where it came from, and it was never like a wolf and this, that, the other. It was kind of like we just sort of started naming things, and like we just had a long list. We had like Red Dragon, Basilisk, just like loads of random names, and Alpha Wolf was just one of them names, and it kind of like stood out a little bit because I suppose that's how I've sort of always seen myself in that way, like with a pursuit of being an alpha and a pursuit of being the best. And like you are effectively as an alpha, you are like a top leader, and that was kind of it. And Steph's exactly the same, where Steph has always like led from the front with her PT and things like that, and the things that she's done. So it was kind of along the lines of like you want to be the best, and you're going to be an alpha, and you're going to get the best out of yourself. So it kind of just stuck, and like we ended up thinking of the name, and then obviously we had the logo designed, and it was like, yeah, that's spot on that, and ever since it just stuck.
Good job you didn't call it Red Dragon, mate. It would have people turning up for like prawn crackers and stuff, wouldn't you?
It was one of them. Like why didn't we call it Red Dragon now? I mean, Red Dragon obviously because we're in Wales and there's the dragon which is red, etc. And I think we didn't because I'm sure there was one down in Swansea that was called it at the time. And obviously, you would say that you could call yourself based on a place. So again, CrossFit Flint is not the best name. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to be like, come to CrossFit Flint. And it was just kind of things where you either go with the place that you are, or you are effectively, you just make up a name that is sort of relevant in some way, shape, and form.
It's crazy to me that existed as well, because you can't like have when you affiliate, if your name's any way similar to another, they don't let you do it. So To think that of all the 15,000 affiliates there probably were when you registered, or at least over 10,000, there weren't an Alpha Wolf, because that's such a fucking cool name, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
we genuinely we got really lucky with it, and it's a fantastic name, and it stood the test of time, because people change the names quite often and things like that, or they change the logo, and we've had same logo, same name, and it's what we are renowned for now in that sense.
Yeah, I remember the first time you sent it me to print it, I was like, fucking hell. This is a rough one to print just because of
we got there, didn't we? We got there.
Yeah, we did it, mate. We did. So obviously you've been on this journey through fitness to fitness. You've always had a passion for helping people, helping them get better, helping them be better, and then obviously the people with the mental health, helping them stay safe. So that obviously segues nicely into the fact that you wanted to join the police, because when you're a police officer, your responsibility is to keep people safe, is to help people, and all those things that you've done your entire life through your various roles. It's just a perfect fit for you. So when did you make the decision to want to join the police?
Do you know what? It was kind of the beginning of last year, and it was more of because I'd done the same thing in the gym world, and obviously I was working for someone consistently. Obviously, we opened CrossFit Alpha Wolf, and it was going to be this. We had a vision, I suppose, delusions of grandeur, and we never knew sort of the area that we was in was going to be so limited, and we was fully in the belief that it would sustain me and Steph completely, and that was going to be. I mean, if it could now, my God, I would love to just live there and obviously be there with Steph 100%, but it just never turned out that way, and it wasn't as successful as we liked. So I was always the person who would have the full-time role. We used to call it the mortgage wage, when you get your checks and everything, that you need to say that you're safe because you've got this much as your continuous salary. And because I was in the gym world at that point, I just sort of conquered everything in the gym world, and I was tired of working for someone else. And the gym world was always, CrossFit world's completely different to the gym world massively. You're always in the gym world working for someone who doesn't understand the gym world anymore. So there's people that are so high up, they don't go to the gym. They don't understand what you do at the lower levels, the things that you deal with, the journeys that people go on and stuff. And it was kind of I just didn't want to just get people in for sales and stuff, because when I suppose CrossFit highlighted that, where you're effectively a person in a community. You're absolutely everything to that. When you go into a commercial gym, you're just a number. You're just literally 8 digits on a pad. If one of you leaves, I'll just get another one. I won't be bothered. I'll literally just go on a marketing scheme or whatever, try and get people in, and that'll be it. Whereas with CrossFit, that one person in the community, that's the person, that person's life inside out, and you build that person up from wherever they're at in the ground, and you are that person's release. And then with the gym world, I got so tired of just working for the man above. I was like, do you know what? I need something different, and I need different every day. With mental health, for example, you never knew what you was walking into. Every day was different, so every day was a challenge. So I was like, what is the next step where I'm not literally sat behind a desk in a gym trying to get more sales and then just living the boring life of monotony? What is completely different? What am I good at? People. And what am I good at? Leading and direction and things like that. And I'd like to say I'm a very good coach in that sense. So I've gone down the route of all these qualities transfer directly into police. And then it was kind of do you know what? I'll go for it, and I'll see what happens. And yeah, that was a journey, wasn't it? Looking back now, wow, it was a tough 5-6 months. Yeah. So, and obviously we're going to explain that now.
Yeah, so you do. Obviously, we'll come to the crunch of it. But you start. How does the journey look? How did you even join the police? I don't even know what that process is.
All you do, first of all, it's just online application. Like with any job these days, the police are recruiting. You throw in your CV, you answer questions, etc., and that's pretty much your first stage. You go on to the next stage, which is like proof screening and things, where you just analyze yourself in a little bit more depth, and you have like questions. So you have, and this is in most jobs these days, where you have like an online interview, but you're not interviewing with anyone. They'll just ask you a question, and they'll give you like a minute or two to answer, and it's scenario based. Where say it was something like there was like a conflict within a schoolyard between a head teacher and a pupil, and then you basically are interjected as the police. What do you do? How do you disperse? Where do you put people, etc.? And that builds over like a 12-question format, and then that's like your stage. And then from that point, if you pass the online interview, you're then required to go in and obviously have a face-to-face interview with a panel, and they ask you a number of questions, scenario-based really, because you can't really say, oh, this is going to happen in the police, what would you do? It's more about like, what have you done in the past, and how your skills and your stories and how you've dealt with things can basically be a benefit to the police force. So did that, and weirdly got the job like on the spot. So we'd gone through the interview, genuinely worst interview of your life, because you can't go in with any notes, you can't go in with any preparation. You are just literally freeballing answers to any question that they ask. And it's not scenario based where they could be like, oh, these are your 5, this is your template that you're answering. You're just going in absolutely blind. They could ask you the fingers and teeth question. And if you fail at that, well, that's it, you failed. But past all that, I ended up being like sat downstairs in the offices, and they were like, oh, you can just wait here. And then within 10 minutes, they've made a decision, and then you've got the job. And I was like, wow. I was like, you are.
So, at that point then, is there no physical? Is there no like, do you not have to like show that you can run after a criminal or something?
No, so you've not had that point yet. The only thing that you've gone through at that point is like your first part of processing. Now,
so what does it mean when they say you've got the job then? Sorry.
So basically you get like a letter that just says that you're effectively, congratulations, you've made it into North Wales Police, pending like your further things like your medical, physical and stuff like that. So it's like a pre-job congratulations before they give you a contract. Prior to that, with your first application, and obviously tattoos is going to be the end of this story, but at the very beginning, you go through a tattoo screening process for your arms, because they are very sort of that way when it comes to like neck, hands, etc. And it does say that. So at the very beginning, my hands got proofed like by someone who basically said, yes, they are okay, because you don't make it to the online interview stage, to the in-person interview stage, if someone says they are a no-go. It literally just gets cut at the beginning. But I got through that first process to lead on to the second process, to the third process. So technically, you're about to start. So you've been given a start date. Your start date is a couple of months ahead, because you've got to go through everything else. So you've got to go through your vetting. So they'll basically take your life apart. They'll go through everything, your previous family history. If, say, your dad's brother's kid is in jail, we'll be like, hang on a minute, he's in jail. What's going on here? Family relation. Luckily enough, no one in my family is in jail at any point, etc. No one in Steph's family, because they go into all that as well. So they go in depth, even to the point where social media wise, they'll go through all your social medias, and they'll be like, change this, change that. So at the time, I had an M4, and there was a couple of videos of me, not speeding because you couldn't tell, but there was a couple of videos of me revving the backside out of it. And they were like, yeah, you can't video yourself driving, how does it look as if you're going to be a police officer that you're doing that? You need to take them down. And I got this phone call when I was in Florida as well, and I was like, oh my God, like, wow. I was like, you're going in that depth to my life? And they were like, yeah, you need to be the perfect citizen. So I was like, no problem, take them down. So took all them down, passed that process. Then you go on to your physical. Went from the physical, all your hearing, your BMI. I suppose I could take one thing, that my BMI was high, but like the doctor was like, we're just going to say that you've got a large amount of muscle mass. And I was like, yes.
Get that, mate.
But at that point, shoulder got brought up because of the limited rotation. So then I had to go privately, because through the NHS, it wasn't quick enough to get like a sign off for my shoulder. So I had to pay privately, paid 250 quid to go to the Spire Hospital in Warrington. for 6 minutes, sat down with a doctor who went, can you do this? Can you do this? What's in it? And it was like, that. Can you do that? Yeah. 250 quid, signed a piece of paper, give that to the police. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So passed everything then. So your physical's all done. And that's it. That's it then. You're just literally waiting for your start date. And I was waiting for my start date. I was like, everything's gone out the window at this point. So this is over like a 5-month period. So I have, at this point, I've left my full-time job, I suppose my career. I've left that. I've gone into the box a bit more and started coaching a bit more. Basically, Steph was just helping me out with things because from the box, like the box money, Steph's money. And it was one of them where like she was helping me, she was supporting me. I ended up getting a little part-time job at Tesco, stacking shelves, just like to just tick the time over because I knew I had a start date and I was going into police. And then it was 2 weeks before, I think, the start date, just got a phone call from one of the, I suppose, administrators and was like, we've reviewed your file. We've now deemed your tattoos to be too. I didn't even know at the time. I wasn't really listening. Do you know what? I was that distraught. It broke me that day when I got that phone call. Like I was in the box and I was in a flood of tears after it because I'd put my heart and soul into these last couple of months and like paying 250 quid, etc., to sort yourself out and going through all the stages. And I was like, I'm in. And then all of a sudden, you wasn't. And apparently there was a change in a chief inspector, and at any given point, a new chief inspector can decide that anything, it doesn't matter, they can just say no to someone. And she'd reviewed all the new recruits' files, seen my hands, and then basically deemed my hands as too excessive. And then that was it. And
can you just show us them, mate?
Yeah. So you've got like on that one, like fingers, hands, swallow, V for Manchester. Just like that. And there's nothing like crude or anything on. There's nothing. And because they were already vetted by someone to say that they were okay, then it was kind of like, it was one of them where like, you've already been said. So I appealed the process and I asked like why. And I've got like a response that basically says, although it's not written into the policing law currently, your fingers, and it was mainly the fingers that were the problem, your fingers need to be one of three things. So they either need to be related to being married, so you'd have like whatever on your wedding ring finger. They need to be religious, so obviously you've got people who have like certain religions have like hand tattoos down the hands and stuff, or they need to be minimal. And because mine were deemed as non-minimal or excessive, then she was just like, nah, that's it. And then that was it. It was cut then. And I was like, wow, appeal process was just declined. And that was pretty much it. Close that door.
I feel like I've seen like cops with hand tattoos though, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it's just that woman's opinion on that day, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's all you can say along them sort of lines where it was just, I mean, they're apparently going to be more stringent about the type of person who they let in with like this. And I was just like, I did like a big appeal, and I basically said my hands do not demonstrate who the person is behind it. I mean, I know I'd be a good person to be out there to put things right and stuff like that. And I was like, you're going to take on people who don't know the world, who've not been through some of the shit I've been through. I mean, like, for example, like with my hands and stuff like that. So I had my tattoos from when I was younger, and in mental health, they were an absolute godsend. And predominantly these days, your police that you respond to, things like that, are mental health people, or someone going through an incident. And these were always a way of de-escalating, because I talk with my hands a lot and stuff like that. So I automatically distract you with what I'm saying. So people who were within the mental health sort of situation, they would warm to that, because you're seen more relatable. You're seen more as like one of them, more like you're not just this person who's got nothing. You know what I mean? As in, like, you can be relatable to anyone at that point. And it was very good for me in mental health, because I would just literally start talking to them about what this means and what that means, etc. And I've got all these at my arm and blah blah blah. And at that point, if that person, for example, was having a psychotic episode and they wanted to like do whatever and kill themselves, etc., the mind would just be completely transfixed to like other points, and then they de-escalate and you talk them down, and then all of a sudden they're not going through the psychosis point anymore, and you're literally just having a chat with them, and then that's it. You just carry on with the day. So I was always kind of along the lines of like, I would never see them as a burden in that sense. And like you could ask the question of, oh well, what if you get your hand tattoos removed? So I asked this question. I was like, right, what if I go now, I get laser. I've had laser before on other tattoos. What if I go and get these lasered off? What happens? And it's literally like, oh, you start from the very beginning again. You've got to go through everything ever all again. And I was like, well, that's fucking bollocks, isn't it? Because I've been through everything. I've been approved by everyone, and just because I'm going to take a pattern off my hand, it doesn't change anything at this point in time. So it was very, very disappointing. And I thought, given the world that we live in now, where you can basically be a lampshade if you want to be a lampshade, like I thought, like it would have moved on from that, and like they wouldn't have been that sort of, I suppose, discriminated against. I mean, obviously, I got a lot of conversation from that, and a lot of feedback from when I put the post on and stuff, and everyone was saying the same thing, where like it is just so discriminatory that like you these days when people can say they are whatever they are and things like that, and you can't say boo to a goose or whatever it may be, like you just literally told me that, oh well, your hands don't fit, and it's
yeah, you know where I went with that, mate, when you were telling me this story. Oh, have I lost you? Maybe he's getting a call. I'll give him a minute before I tell him where I'm going with this. Good content, this.
Right, right, sorry. Can you hear me? That was my fucking mum calling me of all the times.
I said I thought you'd be getting a call.
Anyway.
Well, all I was going to say, mate, when you were telling me all that.
Can you hear me?
You good? Yeah,
I can't hear you.
That's all right, mate.
I'll catch you anyway. Play with this. Oh, my pissing mum. Right, 1 minute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you. I've no idea what she's just done. Shit. Right, how do we...
Just...
Have you ever had this before?
No. But you can't hear me, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Wait. Can you hear me? Say something.
I can hear you.
Fucking hell, thank God for that. I can hear you now.
Good.
Sorry about that. So that was my... That was my mum calling me when she shouldn't call me at this time of night. But here we go.
Well, I don't know, maybe she saved you from the controversial statement I was about to make about this process. So I went immediately to, like, I wonder how many people got hired in that wave that met a certain criteria that was required by the ridiculous DEI hires or whatever it might be that people have to prioritize over other things, because like you touched on, hand tattoos, it's not even a thing anymore. Like tattoos aren't you know, there used to be signs of like rebellion or like troublemakers, but they're just not now. David Beckham made them mainstream, didn't he? He saved the day with tattoos.
Oh god, yeah.
But like I just think that for someone to accept you and then come in that might have a quota to meet, you might think that, you know, you can be a lampshade, you can be whatever you want, but with some of those rules and regulations, being a white man is probably the worst thing you can be to try and apply to work for a government agency. So
yeah, and that's kind of just the way we've ended up, unfortunately. And like my main thing was like, I'm 37.
Oh man, he's gonna kill his mum, isn't he?
Right, can you hear me? We're going to go through the same process. I can't hear you. Oh, shit, hell, my fucking mum.
Don't speak ill of your mum. She just wants to see if you're all right. You know what mums are like, man. If you don't answer, she'll keep ringing.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. I've no idea what I did last time.
It's good content.
Oh, Christ. Right, can you hear me? I can't hear you. This is all gone tits. I've no idea, Steve. I've no idea what I did last time. I you came back on with sound after about 30 seconds, so I'm hoping that it just kicks back in. Yeah, and that's my mum messaging me saying that my Auntie Joyce had a fall, and I can hear you now because you kicked back in, but that's my mum messaging me to say that my auntie's had a fall and she might have broke her hip, so we're going to have to deal with that one after this. Hey, never stops, mate. Never stops.
I reckon we're about wrapped anyway, mate. I think we've got a good chunk of it done. So I'll let you go and tend to Auntie Joyce. But if you can just leave me a question for our next guest, I think that'll be a fitting end after what we've discussed.
I think my question is, if you could go back to the beginning, would your life, what would you choose to do differently with the life that you had back then? And I say that from a point of like, I would say that with my fitness journey, when it started at like say 16, like at that point in your life, again, this is if you've got someone who's a bit older. No point in asking a 21-year-old because they don't know what's hit them yet. But if you've got someone older, just ask them, would they change anything? And I think for myself, to answer my own question, I'd probably say not. I wouldn't have my hand tattoos, although they are part of who I am now. I'd say that going back, there would have been a lot more doors that would have opened for me back then. Because when I was in mental health, for example, I could never get into the NHS because it was a very big thing back then. That like you're going back 20 years, so you basically then tattoos were the tattoo side of things. Beckham was like, he made them what they are, but he hadn't made them what they are yet. So they were still like, they are that nasty stuff. And for me, I couldn't get to the NHS. I remember being interviewed once with a panel of 4 people, and got halfway through the interview, and this older woman just clocked me and was like, when she clocked my hands, she just put the pen down for whatever she was writing, and that was it then. I was just done. And I was like, yeah. And that was always the way. But then I never thought in this world, so that's why when I went for the police and with my hands and everything, I thought, no bother. It's not a problem anymore. The world has accepted everything because, like you said, you see people out there in the police who've got hand tattoos and you've got tattoos everywhere and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, in my mind, I was fully aware that like, there's no problem anymore because the world has changed. There is acceptance consistently. And obviously it just wasn't that way.
It's frustrating. And the other thing is, like, if you just moved to a different place, you'd probably be okay as well, wouldn't you? That's also
potentially. Now, again, I got rejected from North Wales Police, and that was obviously after the 5-month journey. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to try and see what happens. So I applied for Cheshire, and I applied on a Friday, did the full application, did everything that I needed to do, described everything that I've got, and then on the Tuesday, just got a straight rejection. And I literally asked the question, why have I been rejected? And the question was a simple answer: your finger tattoos are too excessive. And that was it. So that like 4-day process, if you was to go back to the start of last year and North Wales Police, if they did that with me, I'd have been like, fair enough, job done, no more. But because I'd got in, and then I got to the point where I've got my start date, and then you just pull the carpet, and I'd made so many changes. Effectively, I derailed my own career to start a new career and a new life, to then effectively just have the door closed at the last bit. And yeah, and I think I have been told that like various places, like if I was to go into Manchester have less like sort of stringency on the tattoos and things like that. But in my head, I'm like, you're in the fucking police. The police is it's the country. Like you should all be singing the same hymn. I shouldn't be able to go somewhere else and be like, oh yeah, he can come in because you know what, like he's that. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It should be the same everywhere because I'm going to be the same person whether I'm based in North Wales or I'm based in Manchester or I'm based in London. I'll just be exactly the same person, exactly the same qualities, attributes, exactly the same background, all things like that. My hands are just going to be the same, and that'd be it. So that like it just. I decided to close that door myself because I was like, I'm not going to take me and then like move to Manchester and put my expenses and everything that way and just do you know what I mean? Because it just devalued it to me, and I was like, if you don't want me for me in this place, well, I'm not going to be me for you in that place. It's just the way it is.
And that's fair enough, mate. And I think you're right. Like you are you. So it shouldn't matter where you are or anything. It is what it is, isn't it? So yeah, it's interesting. Public sector, mate. It baffles me constantly, but it is what it is. And I'd much rather have you protecting us than some of the people that I see. You know what I mean? Like you've got hand tattoos, so you're deemed like incapable. But I see people that they are like big people that would not be able to chase down a criminal for longer than
100%.
3
And
seconds.
it was one of my main things, and like I was kind of like in my head, I was like I was going to be that guy that was just going to be a bit different, and a bit different to the point where they do let a lot of large people in these days. And I mean, I know like stories that I've heard of like people who have like support animals and things like that. Like, and they take them to like an incident that's happened, and they've got like an animal with them because that's their support animal and things. And
what the police have,
yeah, or like someone like will have like they'll carry something with them that'll just to calm them down and stuff. And obviously they let younger people in, and again like younger people who are like, say, if you go back to when you was 20 and I go back to when I was 20, I was an absolute delinquent who didn't know right from wrong or anything like that. And like, you're 37 years old, you've been through a lot of shit, and you've dealt with a lot of things, and you know how the world works. And like, and again with the larger, say, unfit people, like we've had people who would say, you just who chases them, who effectively does the job. It's like, oh well, they're never going to get him, they're never going to catch him, and it's just going to be a consistent chain of events where you're going to literally just fail consistently.
mate. When I was 15 drinking white magic on park, if some fat dude had turned up with a support pigeon, he would have got eaten alive. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? He wouldn't have stood a chance. But I guess the youth of today is soft, so therefore the cops can be, can't they?
Yeah. And then that's what's going to happen. Like as we move forward, youths are going to get away with so much more than they ever have done, and then society will just crumble eventually because you're not meeting anything with force and or just respect. Like they've just got no respect these days, and like you need to learn. People need to learn respect, and they need to be shown the right way. And you're never going to. I mean, what sort of person, like what sort of young person is going to look like if you go back to say when I was younger and stuff like that, like what you'd watch on TV and what the police look like and stuff like that. You're going to see like 3 massive fat coppers, and you're going to be like, wow, I want to be that when I'm older, and things like that, when they're supposed to be like something for you to look up to and something for you to respect. And it's just different, isn't it? Just different.
But we are where we are. There'll be a turning point one day, mate. I just hope we're around to see it.
Like I genuinely think, and I've said this to Steph and everyone, and I don't mind saying it, like I think we're going to come like full circle in the sense of like when, like back in the day when things were like really bad, where you used to get like caned and all the bad things that punishments and stuff like that. You're going down this route now where all that is completely gone, but it's going to go to the point where at some point someone, like for example Trump, would be like, we're bringing that back. because it worked back then, and because nothing works right now, they're going to look back and go, we probably should do that again. Maybe not that extreme, but there should be.
Look at that kid in it. Is it El Salvador? Has opened that mega prison, and there's literally no crime there anymore. It was overrun by gangs, the entire country, like cartels everywhere. He locked everyone up, and now it's like a paradise. It's not rocket science, is it? You let crime run rampant, your country goes to shit. You sort it out, and it magically improves overnight. It's a weird one, but anyway, mate, we could get into that or chat all night about that. But we'll let you go and tend to Joyce, and I'm going to go and watch Champions League, mate. So thank you for jumping on. Just
anytime.
Stay on a second, I'll end the stream. But yeah, cheers, mate. It's a really interesting story, and I'm sorry it happened to you because it's bullshit. But the fact that you've like come out of it and you're learning from it and you're stronger for it is just testament to your character, mate. So
yeah, everything's always a learning curve, isn't it? You just grow from things that happen.
Yeah, nice one, mate. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Cheers, Steve.